On May 20th, 10:36 a.m. as provided for in the Knox County Election Commission's adopted timeline for this hearing, I provided evidence by email to Knox County Election Administrator Chris Davis to support the Stacey B. Smith petition challenge letter submitted to the office of the Knox County Election Commission on May 8th, 2024. Also included on May 8th were completed voter registration cards as provided by the Knox County Election Administration in April 2024 for all 33 alleged signers of Mr. Smith's petition, as well as a copy of Mr. Smith's candidate petition. The first of the two main allegations in my challenge letter is that Mr. Smith has disregarded Tennessee election law by having signers who failed to include an address, had incomplete addresses, addresses outside of the district, or addresses not on the Knox County voter registration card or any recent Knox County voter database, or both. 14 out of 33 records have one or more deficiencies on the address based on TCA 2-5-101B. TCA 2-5-101B is explicit. The signer of a petition must include the address of the signer's residence as shown on the signer's voter registration card in order for that person's signature to be counted. As for address omissions, the only exception given in TCA 2-5-101B for omitting information is an apartment number. Two relevant principles of statutory interpretation to consider for petition signature addresses: the harmonious reading principle and the general specific principle. The harmonious reading principle means that TCA 2-5-101B is specific in what counts as a valid signature, and that statute should be read in harmony with other statutes on petition signatures. This means a qualified voter petition signature should meet the definition of 2-5-101B. The general specific principle means that if there's a conflict between a more general petition signature statute and a more specific petition signature statute, then that is a conflict of statutes, and the general specific principle applies, which means the more specific statute overrides any vague general statutes. This is important because TCA 2-5-101B makes it clear that Mr. Smith is ineligible just on the basis of having signatures with addresses that do not match the addresses on file with the Knox County Election Commission voter registration card information, addresses with no legal registration attached to the signer, or incomplete addresses. The second allegation is that Mr. Smith disregarded Tennessee law by having signatures that were not actually signed by that person. 13 of the 33 records raised some serious questions about who actually made the signature. In some cases, the petition signature having no resemblance to the entire name. Mr. Smith has made the defense that some of the signers were family and friends. However, there is nothing in this claim to suggest that means the person actually signed the petition. Petition fraud is an issue, and candidates and supporters helping gather signatures have forged signatures in the past. A recent congressional source shared with Administrator Davis on May 20th found over 65 criminal convictions of petition fraud across the United States. A search online can find even more. If someone was to sign for another registered voter, it is reasonable that it would be for a friend or family member as opposed to some random stranger that they never met. Reviewing the petition signatures showed that there were inconsistencies with the signatures on file with the Election Commission. This taken in light of the other failure to follow election laws would make one reasonably wonder whether or not these were legitimate signatures. Also submitted to Administrator Davis on May 20th were 4 campaign finance complaints that have been filed against Mr. Smith by another resident of Knox County Commission District 9 submitted formally on May 7th, 2024 with the Knox County Election Commission and Knox County Attorney General's Office. Knox County District Attorney Office Assistant District Attorney Sean Roberts filed his summary with the Tennessee Registration of Election Finance on May 28, 2024 for their consideration and future potential hearing. This is relevant because they show a consistent pattern of Mr. Smith's disregard for following Tennessee election law that would be consistent with someone not following the law for obtaining valid signatures. Ignoring election law harms the integrity of our elections. Mr. Smith has disregarded every single campaign finance deadline and has shown extreme neglect with regard to Tennessee election law. In at least One case, he was over 4 months late in filing an appointment of treasurer form. In every other instance, he was many weeks late. He would have been even later for his first quarter filing if not for this election complaint file related to that disclosure. These extremely late filings make him eligible for civil penalties equal to thousands of dollars in fines. If Mr. Smith continues to move forward with his candidacy, he will likely be required to pay fines of more than $2,000 from his personal finances, and further voter suppression efforts by informing voters of the wrong election month could result in a felony. Failure to properly file campaign finance disclosure reports or pay election violation imposed fines disqualifies a candidate from even being on the ballot. As of today, Mr. Smith has still not reported donations and expenses for 2 large banners he displayed on John Stewart Highway for many months. A picture of one of those banners was shared with Administrator Davis on May 20th, which does not appear to include the required paid-for information, a violation of 2-19-120, which is punishable by a Class C misdemeanor. Another example of Mr. Smith's failure to follow Tennessee law. 2-10-110D makes candidates ineligible to qualify for the election ballot for failing to file campaign finance information. Related to Mr. Smith's disregard for Tennessee election law is his knowingly suppressing voter turnout by sharing election misinformation by informing voters to vote on the wrong month. This evidence was provided to Administrator Davis on May 20th. This election misinformation was shared on Mr. Smith's personal Facebook page that continues as of today to advertise the wrong election month. And I have a printed copy of the Facebook post time stamped with today's date. This same personal Facebook page has actually been used to promote his campaign, even as of this week, and unfortunately will likely result in perhaps dozens being disenfranchised by a candidate telling them to vote in the supposed November county general election. This is relevant because it again shows a consistent pattern of disregarding Tennessee election law. I urge the Election Commission to take this seriously, as someone who has a consistent pattern of violating election law should not be allowed on the ballot in order to protect the integrity of our elections. Mr. Smith announced he was running for President of the United States in January 2023, as can be seen by the video link and attached clip that was shared with Administrator Davis on May the 20th. Mr. Smith picked up a petition to run for County Commission in October 2023. It says on the Knox County petition the general election is August 1st, 2024. On November 13th, 2023, Mr. Smith requested on social media that people vote for him on November 5th, 2024 for County Commission. A reasonable explanation could be that Mr. Smith intends to engage in a campaign of misinformation to convince District 9 voters that the county general election is November 5th, 2024, thus potentially suppressing voter turnout. On May 24, 2024, Mr. Smith acknowledged to Administrator Davis receiving notice that his Stacey Bryan Smith Facebook account is informing voters of the wrong election month, but still, as of today, this Facebook post is still there, no correction having been made. A live post can be searched online by any voter. On May 23rd, I shared 2 news stories with Administrator Davis about a 2016 case where someone was convicted for intentionally misleading voters about the process of voter participation, which may have suppressed voter turnout. Voter suppression by disinformation is a serious issue. It's considered a Class E felony in Tennessee and is relevant to this challenge because it is further evidence of Mr. Smith's consistent disregard for election law. As we cannot predict what future voter suppression methods Mr. Smith may use for this upcoming election, we can only use his past behavior of consistently disregarding Tennessee election law and telling voters to vote on the wrong month to reasonably predict that it would be a responsible course of action in light of all of his other disregards for Tennessee law and his deficient candidate petition to disqualify the candidacy of Mr. Smith to stop further election misinformation. And finally, I'd like to say this in rebuttal to what Mr. Smith said. I have the highest regard for the work that Administrator Davis and the Election Commission does here in Knox County. I can say from looking at things that have gone on around the nation, we are very well versed in how to maintain election integrity here in Knox County. And finally, just to say this, there's been an attempt by people to mischaracterize this challenge to Mr. Smith's petition as some sort of a partisan attack. This is all about election integrity. And while most people think of election integrity in terms of drop boxes or mailing out ballots to all the people in the voter rolls, ballot access is also part of election integrity. And so, as I've said before, we have a low standard of signatures, so we have to really take this seriously, and particularly to apply the law as it's written. And so all that we're doing today is asking you to apply the law, follow the law. 2-5-101B plainly states that the signatures have to match those on file with the Election Commission, or the addresses have to match those on file with the Election Commission. And in quite a few of Mr. Smith's signatures, the addresses, when there are addresses, do not match those records. So thank you for your time.